Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mighty Ride Junkies. So we have finally caught up with Magic Mountain as we cover this last grip of rides that are still in the park, but don't worry, this is not the last video for Magic Mountain. This video is going to be a little tricky for me, as two of the rides we're going to cover on this list I've actually never been on, so I had to do some research the old-fashioned way. Let's start with the ride I've actually been on, unfortunately. Green Lantern's First Flight. I followed this ride's construction religiously when it was announced, as I thought it was such a cool idea. I remember being at the top of some rides and seeing the track being delivered. And on July 1st, 2011, I was one of those guys standing in line to ride the first flight. Along with it, the new DC themed land had been completely done, and Magic Mountain was awarded the Guinness World Record for most roller coasters in a theme park in the world, a record it still holds as of this upload date. However, once I got on this 825-foot coaster, I was very disappointed. The ride basically rolls you around at 35 miles an hour as you flip over and over again. The ride doesn't use the same mechanics as X2, but instead turns on pressure and weight. Basically, every time you ride it, it will be completely different because of this. However, I would know, as after that day, I never rode this ride again until I started doing research for this series. Magic Mountain claims this ride takes 2 minutes to get through. However, after 7 different time tests, we got anywhere from 45 seconds to a minute. The reason for this is when you're riding the coaster, about halfway you experience that weird break. This is because the coaster is going too fast. Sometimes, if you're the only coaster on the track, or if you're going the right speed, these brakes will deploy just enough to take off some of the G-force you're feeling. Speaking of G-force, this ride can't get a proper measurement because every ride is different, but every time you do experience both positive and negative Gs. Moving on to Roadrunner Express, one of the 2 rides in this video I haven't been on. Kind of. After doing some research on this coaster, I found out I've actually been on this ride when I was 10, back when it was known as Rex's Rail Runner, and it made its home in Jazzland, New Orleans. Eventually, Jazzland was bought out by Six Flags and became Six Flags New Orleans, and renamed the ride what it is now. If you saw my very first video about the history of Six Flags Magic Mountain, then you should remember Six Flags New Orleans became flooded from Hurricane Katrina in 2005. After many attempts of salvaging the park, it was impossible, and Six Flags broke off from the city of New Orleans, but not before taking some of the rides with them they had managed to fix. One of them was Roadrunner Express, which ended up in Magic Mountain in 2009. After refurbishing it and putting it back into one piece, Magic Mountain struggled to reopen it as it was battling to stay alive from bankruptcy. But by May 2011, it finally opened. It's a very small ride at only 680 feet of track and 22 miles per hour. The ride won't even last a minute before it's over. Still, hopefully I can ride this ride again one day and in its new home. Back to DC, we get one of the most hilarious rides I love to go on, Lex Luthor's Drop of Doom, which opened on July 7th, 2012. Don't get me wrong, being 400 feet in the air before being dropped at 85 miles an hour will make anyone poop their pants, but for some reason I always get that one person who wants nothing to do with the ride riding with me. I've dealt with panicking screams from just moving slowly up, to hyperventilating, and even murder threats to the person who dragged them on the ride. So I'll give you a quick little story of the best time I ever had on Lex Luthor's Drop of Doom. We were heading to the top, and it was windy as could be. The cart was shaking back and forth, and the girl next to me started crying. Not because of the ride shaking, but when we got to the very top, which is just 15 feet away from the tippy top of Superman, which the ride sits on, and right after Lex Luthor's very long monologue, we got a message from the ride operator saying the ride was experiencing technical difficulties, but we should be back to normal in a few minutes. So at this point, we're stranded at the very top of Lex Luthor's Drop of Doom. And about 30 seconds in, This girl legitly starts crying, tears coming down her face and everything, talking about how she's going to die, which I felt bad for. But the husband, boyfriend, guy friend, whoever was with her, was trying to calm her down by telling her everything was all right. But then she takes it to a whole nother level by saying, through thick tears,
I'm never gonna see the new Star Wars movie. I'm never.
snot bubbles begin to form on her nose.
I'm never gonna see the rest of Game of Thrones.
And the guy says, well, hun, at least you're going to know what it's like to skydive before you die. Which, at this point, everyone in the cart is now laughing except for her. But suddenly, about a minute and 10 seconds in, we dropped. Which, to the ride operator, I was cussing at because you didn't give us a warning. I apologize. Lex Luthor hasn't been the same since. On to the second ride I've never rode, Slingshot. Similar to Dive Devil and Cyclone Crap 100, you have to pay extra for this. So again, other than being on rubber bands attached to a hamster ball, here is a video giving you a better idea of what it is. Onto the ride I can personally thank for destroying log jammers. Full Throttle. Opening on June 22nd, 2013, this 2,200 footer launches you off at 70 miles per hour before taking you through a loop that at the time was the biggest loop in the world. The loop is so huge that there's an actual change in G-force depending on where you're sitting on the coaster. While it's no mystery that if you sit in the back of a coaster while it goes into a loop, you may experience some negative to zero G-force hang time. However, no coaster has it to while you're going through the loop, the front is experiencing 4 G's of force, while the back is experiencing 0 to negative G's. That is a huge change for the same coaster at the same part of the ride. What's also unique about this ride is once you go through the loop, you then return over the loop. This is a must when visiting Magic Mountain. This next ride was almost the first ride I was going to skip. Instead, I'm just not going to spend that much time on it. And that's Speedy Gonzalez's Hot Rod Racers, which opened in the summer season of 2014. Even for a kid's ride, this is almost as bad as Magic Flyer. I'm not going to explain too much on it and just show you this video, mainly because the specs for this ride are almost near impossible to find. And I couldn't get away with measuring it myself as it looks odd seeing a grown man riding a ride with a bunch of kitties and not one of them are his own. I need to get working on that, apparently. One of the most surprising rides I ever experienced was Twisted Colossus. While I wasn't against them basically destroying an original Woody roller coaster, I thought the idea was kind of cheesy. I mean, a steel Woody roller coaster, isn't that an oxymoron? Nevertheless, I went on this ride a month later after opening day, which was May 23rd, 2015, and I loved it. Taking you down 4,990 feet of track at 57 miles an hour, you go down a 128-foot drop that is 80 degrees, I might add, not once, but twice, while experiencing 3.8 G's of force before going through a 0G barrel roll. Twice. The ride clocks in at a whopping 3 minutes and 45 seconds, so don't expect to get off anytime soon. This is considered a race roller coaster, which are slowly becoming extinct due to safety reasons. But basically, at one point in the ride, you'll find yourself neck and neck with another coaster cart going down the tracks. Make sure you do this ride while at Magic Mountain, you will not be sorry. Magic Mountain continues to thrive and grow, and there is no doubt that in 5 years, there will be a lot more rides to cover as the park continues to set and break records. Sometime this year, Magic Mountain will open Justice League Battle for Metropolis, which I couldn't be more excited for. It's an interactive 3D shooting ride where you'll be fighting against Lex Luthor and the Joker. I'm super excited for this ride, so maybe I will see you there on opening day. That completes all the rides that are still in current working order at Six Flags Magic Mountain. But to my Magic Mountain junkies, that is not the end. I still have a few more videos planned for Magic Mountain. Next time, we will take a look at the rides that are gone but not forgotten, a more morbid look at some of the events that transpired within the park, and a video on one of my favorite events I look forward to every year. Hope to see you there.